Something's happening at SIG Sauer, and it's got the whole gun world on edge. For years, they've been locked in a fight over the P320. Lawsuits stacking up, headlines calling it unsafe. Gun owners split right down the middle. And SIG, they've always punched back. No apologies, no backpedaling. Until now. Because just days ago, SIG dropped a statement that didn't sound like the same company we've been hearing from. The edge was still there, but buried under it was something else, something almost careful. Some say it's damage control, others think it's the start of a major shift. Either way, it's a change you can feel. And here's where it gets even stranger. An alleged patent has surfaced, one that could completely change the game. We're talking about the kind of behind-the-scenes move that companies make when they're about to do something big, or when they know trouble's coming. If you think this is just another corporate statement, you're already behind. This could be the first domino in a chain reaction that hits every P320 owner, and maybe even the entire firearms industry. So buckle up, this one's going to get messy. Now it's time to make it clear why this is such a big deal. Because if you haven't been following the P320 saga, here's what you've missed. The SIG Sauer P320 hit the market like a freight train. Sleek, modular, and tough enough to win big military contracts. It became the darling of law enforcement agencies and concealed carriers overnight. But soon after, the cracks started to show. Videos began popping up, stories from police officers, security personnel, and even regular gun owners, all claiming the P320 had fired without the trigger being pulled. We're not talking about user error here, we're talking about holstered guns going off during routine movements. Lawsuits started stacking up, injuries were reported, departments began pulling P320s from service, and through it all, SIG stood firm. Flat out denying that there was any defect, pointing to internal tests, and insisting that every gun leaving their factory was safe. That hard-line stance became their trademark in this fight. No concessions, no admissions, just a wall of corporate confidence. And for years, that's how they played it, which is exactly why what happened this week feels so jarring. Because when a company that's been bulletproof in its defense suddenly changes its tone, it means something's moving behind the curtain. And if you've been in this game long enough, you know moves like that don't happen without a reason. To tell you the truth, the latest statement from SIG doesn't read like anything we've seen before. Gone is the iron wall of, we deny everything, corporate speak. This time, there's a crack in the armor. The wording feels calculated, not panicked, not defeated, but careful, like they're threading a needle between admitting nothing and preparing the ground for something bigger. They acknowledge the ongoing concerns, they stress safety, but they stop just short of saying the one thing they've refused to for years: we might make changes. And that's huge, because whether they want to admit it or not, the second a company starts shifting tone, they're thinking about how this plays in court, in the media, and in the minds of the people still buying their product. Some folks are reading between the lines and seeing the opening moves of a settlement strategy. Others think SIG is bracing for another wave of lawsuits and wants to soften the optics before it hits. And then there's the crowd whispering about that alleged patent, wondering if this change in tone is actually the prelude to rolling out a quiet design tweak that could make the controversy disappear without ever saying there was a problem in the first place. Whatever the motive, one thing's certain. You don't see this kind of pivot unless the stakes are high and the clock is ticking. Now, let's get into the part that's really turning heads. The alleged patent. Not just paperwork collecting dust, but something that could change the game. Word is, SIG filed a patent tied to the P320's trigger. If true, that's not boring legal talk, it's a giant clue they're working on a fix. And companies don't redesign the heart of their bestseller without a reason. If that reason happens to solve the very complaints haunting them in court, that's where it gets interesting. This could be SIG's way of quietly addressing the issue without flipping the story. Instead of admitting fault, they get to sell you the next generation of a pistol you already own. Sure, the patent might be unrelated, but if it's connected, SIG could be gearing up for a move that shakes the whole gun industry. So here's where it gets tense. If that patent really ties to the P320 mess, SIG's next move could go one of two ways. Option 1, roll out a new and improved variant, sell it as an upgrade, and let older models quietly fade. No recall, no apology, just a slow phase out. It's clean, quiet, and avoids the courtroom spotlight. Option 2, go on offense. Use the patent as proof they're ahead of the curve, pushing the idea that their pistol is evolving faster than lawsuits can catch them. Either way, it affects you. When a giant like SIG makes a play like this, the whole industry pays attention. If it works, others will copy the playbook, handling controversies not with statements, but with quiet changes right under our noses. Now it's time to make something crystal clear. This is bigger than SIG. What you're seeing play out here is a blueprint, a test case, and if it works for them, it's going to spread like wildfire across the firearms industry. Manufacturers are watching, competitors are watching, hell, even anti-gun groups are watching, because moves like this change the battlefield completely. Instead of public blowback forcing a recall, you get quiet changes, new product launches, and the old models quietly disappearing off shelves without a word. It's the kind of strategy that keeps shareholders happy, lawyers busy, and the headlines just calm enough to avoid a PR disaster. But for gun owners, it means you could be holding a firearm that was quietly updated in the next generation, while yours sits with the same potential issues, and no official notice telling you about it. Think about that. No press release, no recall email, just a new model in the case at your local shop, shiny and upgraded, and you're left wondering if yours is yesterday's problem child. And here's the hard truth. This isn't some far-off what-if. We've seen shades of this before. In other industries, it's practically standard practice. The only difference now is that it's creeping into the firearms space, and the stakes here are a whole lot higher. So when we ask, is SIG changing course? We are really asking, is this the first domino? Because if it is, every single one of us is standing in the path of what falls next. If you're thinking, I don't own a P320, so this doesn't affect me, you're missing the bigger play. When a giant like SIG tests a new way to handle controversy, others copy it. Soon, it becomes the norm. Picture this. You walk into a gun shop, find the model you've wanted, and it feels perfect. But hidden in the fine print, or buried in a patent, is a quiet change fixing a problem you never knew existed. No notice, no explanation, just fixed for new buyers and forgotten for old ones. That's not paranoia, that's pattern. It's the shift from accountability to silent replacement. And once that's standard, we lose the power to demand answers. So ask yourself, is this progress or just controlling the story before you even know it exists? Now it's time to face the part that has everyone in the industry leaning in, that alleged patent. On paper, it looks dry. Legal text, technical diagrams. But for those who've been watching the P320 saga, it's like reading between the lines of a confession. The timing is what makes eyebrows shoot up. This patent doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It surfaces right as SIG shifts their public tone. From combative denial to something far more calculated. Almost like they're laying the groundwork for whatever comes next. If the patent's designs line up with what insiders think, it could be the smoking gun. Proof that SIG has known exactly what needed adjusting and was already moving to lock down the rights to those changes before making them public. Here's the kicker for you as a buyer. Patents are filed long before you see a single product on a shelf. Which means if this is the real deal, SIG might already have the next generation fix locked away, waiting to roll it out on their terms, not yours. And that's where things get interesting, because if that's true, the clock isn't ticking for SIG, it's ticking for you. The question is, will they make the first move, or are they counting on the storm dying down before they have to? So let's make it clear. When we talk about the end game here, there are only a few ways this can shake out, and each one hits differently. Option 1, SIG goes fully transparent. They address the P320 issue head-on, admit where things went wrong, and roll out a fix for everyone, past and future buyers alike. That's the clean, honest route, and in today's corporate climate, it's also the least likely. Option 2 is the slow fade. Keep making subtle changes behind the scenes, quietly release updated models, and hope the lawsuits, the media coverage, and the public interest dry up. For the average gun owner, that means your version sits in the safe exactly as it is, with no upgrade path, unless you shell out for a brand new gun. And then there's option 3, the nuclear one. A major ruling or legal move forces SIG's hand. Court orders, recalls, massive payouts. A scenario where the company doesn't just lose money, they lose control over how their product is handled from here on out. The wild part? All three are in play right now. Which one will we end up with depends on a mix of public pressure, legal action, and what SIG's next chess move is behind closed doors. So if you're thinking this is just about one model or one company, think again, because however SIG plays this, it's going to be the blueprint for how every other manufacturer handles their next big scandal. And trust me, there will be a next one. Now it's time to be blunt. This isn't just a SIG story anymore, it's a stress test for the entire firearms industry, and the ripple effects are already in motion. If a brand this big, this trusted, can be dragged into the spotlight by lawsuits, patents, and public pressure, every other manufacturer is taking notes right now. As a gun owner, you're standing at a fork in the road. Either you keep your head in the sand and let corporations and courts decide what your future looks like, or you stay alert, stay loud, and demand accountability. Because the second you tune out, the decisions get made without you. We've seen it before. One headline sparks a wave of copycat moves. Companies adjust their strategy. Lawmakers smell an opportunity, and suddenly, the rights and access you've had for years are rewritten almost overnight. Think that's far-fetched? History says otherwise. From here on out, every press release, every court filing, every leaked detail is a clue to where SIG is headed. The real question is, are you watching closely enough to catch it? You should be, because when the next twist drops, I'll be right here breaking it down. So hit that subscribe button, stay locked in, and don't miss the moment it happens.
Listen!